You know, when we were Googling you I was Googling you to watch some of your things before this interview. And of course it's like all this slander stuff. And I thought when we had Christian Northrup on here and Kelly Brogan, it was the same thing. Just, I couldn't even find the content. I thought whenever you find that, I'm like, this is a hero of our time.
Yeah,
that's what I say. This is somebody who has a message that's important to hear right now.
The video was about how bacteria and fungus can be transmissible because they're a living organism, and as such, they can transfer from one host to another. But they also need a reason to be there. So that's why if you kiss somebody with a sore throat, you may get a sore throat, but only if you have something in your throat that needs to be cleaned out, which is what the bacteria does. They're essentially like janitors. They break down elements of the body that we are not able to break down ourselves. It's why our gut is full of bacteria, because without it, we don't digest food. It's like our intestines don't digest the food. The bacteria digest the food. The intestines absorb. So what happens then is when we have any kind of action, snotty nose, clogged sinus, throbbing head, achy muscles, that's because the body is breaking down built up gunk. It's cleaning out. It's a spring clean.
I know that you've, have dove into natural law, true law. Was this something that came about after the videos? Was this something you've been studying for a while? And can you talk a little bit about your understanding and why it helps you navigate, how it helps you navigate these times?
It's something that I've been into for a while and to varying levels of success. It was only after I met Mark and was learning from Mark that I actually had success. So even when I was learning about sovereignty, I was not getting successes because of the materials I was learning. It was because I was figuring things out. And likewise, even from learning from Mark, I still had to figure a lot of it out because he's been doing it for 25 years and I don't think he knows what it's like to be a beginner. It's like there's an element there where some of the processes that he has aren't complete. So you still have to figure things out for yourself.
About natural law. For those who aren't as versed on the subject, like how are you using it? How have you used it to navigate the mask situation? And how do you anticipate using it when you think about mandatory jabs or door-to-door jabs or camps?
Yeah, for sure. So it comes from a premise that, this shirt is actually about the Nuremberg Code and Cruden versus Neal, which is essentially that says my consent's absolutely essential. It also says that man's not bound by man-made laws without his consent. He's only bound by nature's laws. So anything that could be made mandatory is a man-made. Rule, law, act, code, statute, bill, legislation, it's all man-made. So if it's man-made, it needs our consent before it can be implemented. Hey, Tom, you've got to wear a mask. Really? Am I compelled by law to wear that mask? Can you produce that for me? Can you produce a source of authority that requires me, not just requires, but I'm bound by law to wear that? And so then when you actually look into any of the government guidelines, they all say that, it's recommended or you're required or it's mandatory to wear a mask. But if you can't wear one because you have breathing difficulties or past trauma or skin conditions or a list of other ailments, then you don't have to wear a mask. So the people that write the fake rules also have all the guns. And so if they want to tell you you've got to wear a mask and point a gun at you to tell you to do so, then it doesn't technically matter that the law doesn't say that, because in that moment, you have to know who you are and how to hold your position. So what that means, that's what the consent's all about. So that's how you need to learn about languaging and communication, where they are making the claim. And because we're in commerce, they have to back up the claim. We don't. We're not making the claim. And that's why we never want to make claims. We never want to say, I don't have to do that. The Biosecurity Act says this. I'm not bound by that. I have my own rights. If we do that, we're babbling. And that's also coming from a place of defensiveness, which is a place of fear. So until people know who they are, this game to me is all about personal development. It's not about learning rights. Because if you're not developed to the point of being grounded and balanced, you will blurt stuff out. You can't do that to me. I have rights. Get away from me. You can't do that. Claims, 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 defensive, defensive, defensive. So if somebody comes right up to your door and says, all right, here's my AK-47, you've got to take this jab or else. And you go, really? Okay, that's fine. I'm happy to take the jab. No need for the gun there. Just want to know though, am I actually compelled by law to take that jab? You obviously have authority over me to offer that. What's your source of authority? You start asking questions, putting them on the spot and making them make the claim and back it up. And when you can do that, that's coming from power. That's not coming from fear, and it's putting somebody else in their place, which they have to back up the claim. This isn't about learning new stuff as much as it's about remembering who you are. And when you can get back to your essence, which is just flowing through your blood right now, it's in your blood, it's flowing through your veins, it's in there right now. And all you have to do is remember it and tap into it. That alone will mean that what you say says that you know who you are. If you can come from that, your ancestry, like think about what it took for you to even be here in the first place. Yeah, maybe you're squandering it now through Netflix and donuts and that's not like paying respect to your ancestors that got you here. But at the same time, it's still there. So when you do tap into that, and then you say to somebody, I don't consent, the tone or the resonance in your voice says, I know who I am. And therefore, it's all about consent from that point. And if you don't consent to being jabbed or being locked up or being told what to do, well, then that's step one. Doing work on grounding, connecting, trauma work is very important at this point in time. We need to move through that, because if you don't, that's what's triggered when you're faced with maybe military in the street. It's not how sensible you are or how much you've learned off the internet. It's what's in here that you haven't dealt with yet. That's what's going to come up. That's what the instinct will be. And unless you do some work and at least get to know it, you don't have to move right through it, but at least get to know what it is. So you have an awareness, then you don't know how you'll react in situations, and you might get yourself into more trouble because of your reaction.
So what is happening with the jab? I know you've probably looked at that pretty deeply. And then why is this being so pushed onto most of us in society?
I think what's happening with the jab is that it's designed to again remove people from their nature. It's that bridge from human to transhuman. As soon as we start serving mankind and man-made and technology and all that, well, then we're disconnected from our source, and we'll never ever find happiness, contentment, love, all those things that will chase through the other whatever else we serve.
And as you yourself look forward, what do you think? What do you think is the most critical thing for us to focus on in terms of building a new society?
I think it's three things: community being the first aspect, the second being self-responsibility, and the third being creativity. That's why as soon as people come back into being and realize their own power, that's what we've never learned through our whole indoctrination process, is how powerful we really are. So therefore we give that power up to somebody else or something else, which is a corporate entity which runs media, pharmaceuticals, and mind control. But it's not about fixing, it's about just turning your back on that old to create the new. And then it just falls away. When we're not supporting it with our money and our energy, then it can't survive. So then we just go, well, what do we want to create instead? And that's work. If we want this other life, which is right there for us, it's always been there, we have to work at it daily. And otherwise it's just, I'll just still order Uber Eats while I create the new, it's not gonna happen that way.